The 12th of August will mark day one of the Devolution conference that takes place every year. And it's done so a few years into Devolution. We saw that happening. Now, we get into a conversation this hour when we look at the state of devolution and whether we're looking at success stories or stalled promises. The former governor of Kiambu County is Dr. James Nyoro. He joins us again in the Situation Room. Good morning.
Morning to you. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Thank you so much. And Deputy Governor from Machakos County is Francis Mwangangi. He's here as well. Good morning, DG.
Good morning. And thank you for the invite.
Thank you for honoring it. And we must say thank you to both of you for seeing the same designer before you came, because you are twinning in different colors, albeit, but you look good. Karibu sana.
I think this is Spice uniform.
It must be something. We're glad that you made it. So let's give you a little bit of work to do in terms of interpretation. Mm-hmm. Dennis is in a different country this week. He'll tell you what that is. We'd love to hear interpretation of the proverb.
So today we are in Botswana, and it is a beautiful country, especially when you talk about its democracy. It's considered to be Africa's success story since 1966 with regard to its democracy. But then again, you look at its people, especially the Bushmen, who are known as the San people, and they are the indigenous hunters and gatherers with a rich cultural heritage. One would look at it and say perhaps close to our Maasai in the country and how they have preserved their culture. But then again, if you want to enjoy some heat, you go to the Kalahari Desert. If you will survive it, that's a different story. But let's go to our proverb today. If the cattle die, the people die. If the cattle die, the people die. Deputy Governor, which one goes first? Let me start with Machakos Deputy Governor. How would you interpret that?
If the cow dies, the people dies.
Yes.
That African saying, I will equate it with another one from my place. That they say if they lack leadership, they would take very bad water. Mm-hmm. The meaning, if we lack leadership at family level, at whichever level, then we are likely to suffer. Yes, whether it is at country's level, it is at ward level, it is at family level, it is at church level, leadership is crucial. Even we have seen organizations, you see under certain leadership they prosper, under others
they did.
Yes, that's my
interpretation.
Interpretation of if a cow dies.
But you said it's also in Kamba.
Yeah, how would you say it in Kamba?
The one I've said?
Yes.
Siandongo inyuzwa mulwe. Siandongo inyuzwa mulwe.
Yeah. Nyoro, how would you say it?
You know, when
I know why you're looking at me.
When he says it in Kamba, it's also like Kikuyu. And you know, in Kikuyu it says that you see the sheep.
Yes.
When the sheep are walking, there is one that is reading it.
Yeah.
But if the reader is lame or is weak, the rest of the group will end up not getting to the grazing land. In Kikuyu you say but I think specifically on this, and Botswana is such an interesting country because besides what you have said, Botswana Meat Commission is one of the best. They are livestock keepers, and they came here and studied our KMC. Went, established a better meat commission that people from Kenya, people from KMC, normally MCAs normally go there to benchmark. On it. So for me it means a lifeline. If you lose your lifeline, the entire community or leadership is dead. That is to me the interpretation of that.
Well put.
Indeed. All right. Let's get into it. Kenya's system of devolution officially began in 2013. This was 3 years after the promulgation of the Constitution in 2010, and it implemented 47 county governments. They were established following the March 13th general election of that year. So, Kenya has been in 12 years of devolution from then until now. And what this essentially has done, in addition to decentralizing power, has also seen that development took place in a lot more areas that were then hard to reach from the central government of Nairobi. And that this meant that more people would then be able to leave the city and look at a decongestion of what would be the capital and take them to parts of the country where they could work for the government and get things done. We then also saw the decentralization of funding, so that from what would be what we now haggle over for every now and then in terms of equitable share, that counties then would get funds to then develop their counties. And then they were also able to get other funds from what they would charge in terms of revenue at the county level. So this is the idea of devolution, and that we've seen county bosses with their deputies then be able to lead a particular region and then say, how can we develop it here and make sure that governance is actually working and that development is happening at the same time. Having said that, one would like to be able to look at it as we normally do when the devolution conference comes to play. Take a stock of what has been happening with devolution. Many have said that it was the biggest mistake that we could have ever made, because what it did is that it then decentralized corruption. And we then took corruption from here and we put it in 47 smaller places. Others said it's the best thing that could have happened since sliced bread, because people who would not have ordinarily gotten work to do got it. So at the devolution conference, you do stock taking, and you said these are our plans for the future, and this is what we would like to achieve. From both of you, and we can start off with you, Dr. Nyoro. Let's take stock of devolution over the last 12 years, and let's look into it and say, what has been achieved, and are we on the right path?
Thank you very much. I think we need to pause and look at the 2010 Constitution and why it is what it is today. 2010 Constitution was too much of push of people like Dr. Professor Kibuta Kibwana, who was here, and those young Turks that time, activists who felt that the dictatorship that was existing in the country then was too much. And you can, as you know, if you want, you can call the 2010 Constitution an activist constitution. It was a constitution that was expected to change from what was that time, moving into the future. And therefore, on those basis, what had been observed was that too much concentration was in Nairobi in terms of resource allocation, in terms of power, and in terms of, even lack of community participation. And on that basis, the push for devolution came in. Remember, there was Majibo in 1963, which did not work. So the push for constitution for devolution in the Constitution 2010 was such that it was intended to do good, to cover some of the ills that were there before 2010. And therefore, the intentions were good. Now, if you start from there, then you can start to see issues of regional inequality were addressed. There were places in this country that did not see even an inch of tarmac or electricity and whatever. So from where I see it, I see the intentions were good. And like many things that we do in this country, the intentions and what you actually achieve are two different things. I have to say that having being in county government for 2.5 years as deputy governor and 2.5 years as governor, you see some changes. And the best demonstration of those changes was during COVID. If indeed we were not devolved, COVID would have wiped us. But the devolution, what devolution did, and we did 8 summits. I think probably we have done more summits we did more summits in COVID than before. And a summit is where the president sits, with his government and meets the county governments. We worked out modalities of how to overcome COVID, how to develop COVID centers, and so on. So for me, in short, is to say that yes, it's a mixed bag. It is a blessing in many ways. If you look at what has actually happened, including rural areas that have just grown, places like Bugomba, you would go there and you not even get accommodation. Today, if you go there, you find probably 10 hotels have come in because there are resources within the county. The same with counties like Meru. So you will see some positive results. Yeah. But what we need probably to do, and we need to be more empirical, is when we say we devolved corruption, what we need to do is to look at per capita corruption in the national government as compared to the per capita corruption in all the counties put together. We need to do that because, President Uhuru Kenyatta, the fourth president of this country, said we lose 2 billion per year. Maybe that's national.
Per day. Yes.
Per day. So that's national. So what we need to do to be more empirical is to look at how much we are losing from the counties. But the intentions were good. There's a difference between the intentions and the actions.
DG, if you were to give an outlook on what devolution has done, looking from the point of a deputy governor, but then also being able to see how things have changed per county, what would you say?
A lot has happened. Devolution is the best gift that this country has. From a global perspective, I do not know any specific country on earth today that can be classified as developing or developed and has no any form of decentralization, what in this country we are calling devolution. Devolution is the way. Today, at the countryside, you can see a lot of transformation that is happening there. And I think part of the reasons when the history of this country is written is that the third president of the Republic of Kenya, the late Emilio Mwai Kibaki, came in, and even before the realization of the 2010 constitution, he started devolution, a way of decentralization, and this opened up this country. Why? Because that is the shortest, that is the quickest way to transform a country, to transform a region. Look at, when you look back at what happened even before the enactment of the 2010 constitution, the third president devolved literally almost everything. Like if it is roads, we had funds for roads in each of the then 210 constituencies. Electricity money was devolved to constituency level. It is then that also women enterprise fund was also came to effect, youth fund, and this went straight to the constituency level, making sure that there is even and equal distribution of resources. Something else that the 2010 constitution has done, and it is wonderful, is to devolve decision making. Today we have regional assemblies, the county assemblies, which legislate, which oversight, which also represent people at the very lower level of the pyramid. So I think devolution is the way, and it's the best thing that happened to this country. Now, to the issue of corruption.
Ukiona mtu ameanza kujibu swali la kicheko.
It's a problem.
Yeah. I think this country is maybe we need to make a decision as a country whether to continue with it or to stop it. If it stops at the top, it will be nowhere down any level of leadership.
Is this you admitting that there's corruption?
Once in a while, we have seen people in court. We have seen others being convicted. That means it is there. But whose responsibility it is to stop these fires? It is almost all of us. Mwangangi and Dennis, Okal, everyone. We have that responsibility. But we have a constitutional mandate of certain institutions which are publicly financed. Although successive governments, we have seen they are never serious with the fighting of these fires, because look at the allocation to those agencies. Look at the interference, political interference. You can't tell me today some leaders in this country have they have magic in looking for money. Within less than 1 month, a single particular leader can donate in Arambes to a tune of over 200 million, and you tell me he or she is doing business. That's corruption.
Which brings me to the next aspect of this entire conversation. Dr. Nyoro, you look at devolution and its structure, and it needs political goodwill. What do I mean with that? Because even as we speak today, monies that are destined to go to the counties come from the national government. It has, but you look at how these monies get to the counties, they are delayed. You know, they get there late. Services in the counties get to a point that they are almost stalling, that people have to literally beg for these monies to be released. And you look at a situation where governors themselves, some have been summoned to the House on the Hill, State House, to have a discussion with the president, just so it is seemed as, especially those governors we've seen in this government who are seen to be dissenters of the government. And one asks the question, how would devolution work if there is no political goodwill, and how does that then affect services being offered by the counties?
It's a very, very critical issue. First of all, I think we have to say that that president was really very pragmatic to accept, or rather to implement devolution. He didn't implement devolution. Devolution was implemented from 2013 by the Uhuru government, and we have to say that it was very pragmatic to ensure that the 15% of the national resources are going towards devolution, because it's diluting from the center. But having said that, because it is a constitution, there are some instances in the world where devolution or decentralization or federation was started but failed, even within the African countries. So I think the first thing is to say that it was good to implement that part of the constitution. The problem was that when the implementation was starting in 2013, the proportion of the foreign debt or the debt, national debt, was not as high, and therefore devolving 178 billion shillings, which is what happened in 2013, was not that difficult. Over time, you have seen how the national debt has come from 3 trillion to whatever it is 11. Today. Okay, and it has become increasingly difficult because even when we were serving in the counties, we would wait, because it is mandatory that money is released every 15th of the month. And therefore you expect that the money will be released at that point to be disbursed. But you go for 3 months without receiving that money, because you are told the first priority is payment of national debt. The second priority is probably to pay schools or capitation or whatever. And the third priority or the fourth priority would be sending money to the county. Okay. And those counties have their own physical budget and requirements. So it has become increasingly difficult that when the national government finds itself in a situation where it is in a financial crisis, the first culprit, the first person to suffer is the counties. And there has been delays in disbursement of funds going forward. It is very important for the national government to have political goodwill in devolution. If there is no political goodwill, either in terms of disbursement of those resources or even in terms of coordination, and we will come to that to show there is no coordination between the county governments and the national governments, even in including some of the key areas which has been devolved like health and agriculture, and we can amplify that. So it is important that there is a separation and a requirement, and that is why a lot of people have said, why don't you remove Treasury from the responsibility of the national government so that Treasury is independent? Then by law, Treasury will be required to be sending the money to the counties at the time that is required. But if it is the situation as it is today, if you lack goodwill in terms of the national government, then there will be problems of dispersing the money, and subsequently then you can even kill devolution going forward. And if you've probably seen the former Prime Minister, Honorable Raila Odinga, being very, very pragmatic, because he was there during the formation of the 2010 Constitution, and he has said, let's push more money. Right now he's promising 450 billion. Let's push more money. So you have some people who are pushing, but if you lack goodwill from the center, then you kill devolution, whether good or bad.
I mean, let's unpack something here. Corruption. Let's go back to corruption, because I'm looking at a report here, financial year 2022-2023, and there's so many reports because we are still talking about, resource allocation from a centralized government system now to the devolved units that we have. So 1 billion was spent on foreign trips by county officials that year. So if I'm to look at the key counties with the highest spending, we have Nairobi at 188 million. Mombasa 85, Nakuru 87, Kisumu 75. These are millions. Kajiado 72, Kitui 66, Nandi 74, so on and so forth. Now, you look at these figures and the scarce resources then that are moving from Treasury to the counties, and you have 1 billion that is spent on foreign trips. These trips, or rather most of these trips, are listed as study tours, benchmarking tours, or training with no I would dare say, with no real immediate tangible benefits or reports or the outcomes of these trainings and these benchmarkings coming back to the people. The counter argument to this is, and because you are currently serving as deputy governor and Nyoro has been deputy and you are governor, is it then true that a lot of the politics at the county level, that then where we see this money going to, is what many have described? We have county assemblies that have become cartels holding governors by something I don't want to say in English, that if you don't give us this, we will squeeze this part until you give us this money, because this is where we eat from. Are we seeing county top officials and governors held hostage by MCAs in both of your experiences to then continue with the corruption besides the procurement and the other things that we see? Is this the current trend? Is this what you're saying? And I'll start with you, Dr. Nyoro.
Very interesting question. I think there's also a saying, I don't know, maybe from Nyanza, that says that a fish starts rotting from the head.
Yes.
The essence of this thing is that if you turn that coin around and say, what happens at the national government? I don't know whether you have figures for national. And I'm not saying that the counties should imitate what the county governments are doing, but what the national government is doing. But if you look at what happens, like for instance during budget making process, budget making process is a process by itself. There are two committees that are in charge of budget making within the county assemblies and within the National Assembly. There is the budget committee and the finance committee. There is budget and appropriation committee, and there is the finance committee. Now, for you, as a county, what you do is that you start coming up with your budget, the draft budget. That draft budget is then tabled. It is agreed first by the budget committee. They go through it. And for that budget to be passed by the budget committee of the county assembly, it it has to, some people must go to Arusha, others must go to places where you don't require a visa to go. It is the same thing that happens in the national government. So it's a culture in this country that those key institutions that are supposed to maintain internal control or exercise internal control are the ones that are actually starting with what you are talking about. So it is true. Mm-hmm. It is true that, and I can tell you, if you want to succeed as a governor, you have to work with your county assembly. Mm-hmm. Okay. Of course, we saw the instance of Kivuda Kibwana with Makueni, but I can tell you, and you can do. There is a positive correlation between the relationship between the governor and the county assembly. Now, that relationship is not cheap. It is maintained because they feel they are MPs of their wards. So whatever happens with the MPs is happening with the county. So essentially what we are saying is that what you are reading is actually correct.
So
and it is happening.
So this is not a legislative, this is not legislative. So the relationship between the governor then and the MC as well, like the MPs in the county, is transactional. And like you said, you have to maintain that relationship, but then ensuring that you give them these trips, whatever they're asking for, so that then you maintain that relationship, whatever you want to pass then as governor, or to have a good working environment. You have to have them on your side. Is that what you're saying? Well,
essentially, it gets to the survival of the governor.
Wow.
If you are governor, okay? You can imagine there's timelines in budget preparation, in budget, oversight, and, all the way to getting the budget itself. Now, if the working relations between you and the county assembly is not there, there will be delays. You get to the point where the year is over and the budget has not been passed. There has been instances in that. And
the delays is because the governor is not.
It is both. It is both.
Okay.
I think first of all, the county assembly, the members must see that the budget aligns to their interests and the interest of their people. Mm-hmm. In addition to that is now the transactional part.
Okay.
So they oversight properly. They make sure that there is water in their ward. They have claimed about ward fund, which is equivalent to CDF. So they will see that it is necessary and they will registrate, and they would want to register it properly. But it becomes transactional in one way or the other, because that is what is happening in the rest of the country.
Three things. One, county assemblies are independent, so to say, but not independent financially. Mm-hmm. Two, the county assemblies have a certain limit which you cannot go. Either maybe you cannot reduce, you cannot surpass. Thirdly, for one to travel from a county, any county in this country, either county assembly or county government, you must be authorized by the national government through the Department of Devolution. So, I don't know, but the aspect of counties in Kenya not being autonomous when it comes to the financial bit, I think, as Dr. Nyoro says, I think that is where sometimes there is this push and pull. But in case of Machakos, for example, I've seen, I can't call it a push for benefits, but I think there's a discussion. Before you come up with any project, and Dr. Nyoro will agree with me, you must go to the people. Mm-hmm. The county governments, although we equate it to national government, there is a law that dictates there has to be a certain engagement,
Public participation.
Public participation.
Yes.
Right.
And once you are given that project from that particular ward or particular area, it is not that easy to change and start discussing. Obviously, the county government will come up with a proposal that is submitted to the county assembly. Then it is discussed and approved. And during that period, maybe executive can engage the assembly to make sure whatever they got is what is finally passed at the assembly.
But does that happen?
Now, yes, it happens. In Machakos, it happens.
So what we're saying, sorry.
And then speaking as also one of the leaders of deputy governors in Kenya, we have seen some counties, we have had conflicts because of that aspect. And sometimes it is alleged, it is what Dennis is as just read, that because of certain interest somewhere we must do this for us to get this. But so far, it has not happened in Machakos between the executive and the county assembly. That also this must be done to us so that also we do this.
It doesn't happen in Machakos. Do you see that, for example, because you're here as a representative of Machakos County?
Yes.
That do you see that every shilling that is sent to the county is used for what it is supposed to? Because there are county development plans for 5 years. So all of those then go with a budget, and that you still go to the people for public participation. Would you then unequivocally state that every shilling that has been allocated and budgeted for in Machakos County under the auspices of devolution in the county government have gone to those projects?
If I tell you yes, I will be the biggest liar.
Okay.
Because this is a government. It is not a one man or one woman show.
What does that mean? That we don't expect? We can't expect that money that was supposed to be used for a certain thing will actually be used for that thing?
I will tell you for a fact. We have audit reports every year, and they raise certain questions which we address, or others we don't address. We actually seek to take collective measures to correct going forward. When I said this is a government, there are so many people, thousands of people, and among them a lot can happen, good or bad.
So what happens? This is a question. Let's look at the numbers, shall we? Let's look at across the country.
Yes.
In the fiscal year 2023 to 2024, 354.6 billion shillings were sent out to the counties. That is what the budget was. This year, we're seeing the highest number signed by the president for 415 billion shillings to have gone out to the counties. Never has this number since devolution been below 200 billion, hasn't? It has always been above 200 billion that has gone to the counties. Well above. Can we say, really, in the last 12 years, that every shilling that has gone out in terms of equitable share towards counties has been used for the purposes for which they have been budgeted for?
I think to a certain extent, yes. I can give it almost 70% personally from where I sit. The rest is what we read, because
did you say the rest is what we eat?
We read.
No, what we read from audit reports and another related report. Why am I saying this? It's good to be practical and realistic. Where you have many departments, many people, each handling specific task. Very many might have very good intentions and adhering to procedures and laws. Others might also decide to do other things. So it's all we need to do is we need to appealing for integrity, for sensitizing people against some of these practices, so that at the end of the day we realize a development that is intended for these resources. Yes,
Dr. Nyoro?
I think for me, it would be unfair. I think you're asking an unfair question.
Is it?
Yes, because basically what we are looking at is a society which has values and norms. And what we need to do is to, first of all, look at the Kenyan society, okay, from the top, with its norms, with its expectations, and all of that, and say, what are our values? What are our norms? He mentioned if you contribute 200 million in a week, people clap at you and you are the most famous person. Those are the values of our society. And those values reflect not only at the county level, they will probably also reflect at a lower level, including even sometimes at the household level. So I think really the first thing that we need to do is to look at our values and look at our country and ask the same question that you are asking. And, like what I said, because it will be wrong for us to say the counties are the most corrupt or is where there is wastage of resources and whatever. It is not empirical. And that's why I started by saying, let's get per capita corruption at the national level and per capita corruption at the county level. And as a country, let us discuss that evil of corruption.
Just because something has been normalized, does it make it right?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, and I'm not saying that it does. All I'm saying is that it will be unfortunate if we come out of this place showing that all the monies that are going to counties are being stolen, and where would they have been? Where would that money have been if it was at the national government? Okay. So really, I mean, let us be fair to the counties. As a country, let's address the norms, the values, and what standards we hold one another accountable to.
Dr. Terry, you look at when you have discussions about say corruptions in the county, it just starts from a basic point where you remember you became the governor because of your predecessor, who then again was interdicted due to corruption in the county. Look at the impeachment of Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko. Then what happened again? It was a corruption case. Look at all the impeachment motions that have ended up in the Senate, and they all in one way or the other touch on that specific subject, that is corruption. So when we sit and have these discussions, there are two things to look at. There is the caution that comes from the county members, MCAs, who say, if you don't take us for a benchmarking somewhere, we will kick you out, and they'll find something. There is that caution that comes from the counties, from the county assemblies. But then again, there is also wanton corruption in terms of resources and how they're being used in the counties. And one asks the question, with all the bodies that there is, you as a governor and members of county assembly being your oversight, and the auditor general doing their part, EACC, can we then say, if there is a problem of corruption in the counties, as governors, as deputy governors, we are the first stopgaps in ensuring that this ends? Do we see that happening?
I think it's not homogeneous. The governor who was here, the former governor who was here, is a typical good example, and you'll be in textbooks showing how to run a county, including the aspect of public participation that the deputy governor was talking about. He's one who showed that you can run a county with minimal corruption, with active participation. So it is not across the board. What needs really to be done is to make the systems work. The work of MCAs, the county assembly, one of it is oversight. And even a lot of times when I used to appear at the Public Accounts Committee, I appeared with the chair of the county assembly, because hypothetically they are supposed to hold the governor, the county government, accountable for the resources that they have been handling. Right from the budget, they do the budget, which, as she said, in accordance with CIDP. So they will do that budget, they pass that budget. Now, they have an audit committee that is supposed to be checking if the resources are being appropriated properly. At the end of the year, they are the first to do a kind of an audit before the auditors from the national government come in. So it is these institutions that have not been doing their rightful role. And what we need to do is to ensure that that happens. So I do see the dilemma that we are in. And in fact, the good things that has been achieved through devolution, because there has been quite a number of good things that have been achieved, have been overshadowed by that aspect of corruption. So I think what we need to do as a country is really to put in systems and make sure that we also penalize people who are caught up in these acts. Because, like I said, there are some very positive things that unfortunately are overshadowed by that aspect of corruption.
I mean, I think I'll just call you governors at this point.
Yeah.
Let's now go to a very low level, meaning business, and how business then are done when you talk about structures. We hosted a businessman here some time back. Alikuwa kazi yake ni kuchimba boreholes. And he gave us a very interesting scenario on how businesses then are affected at that level when, for example, if you are moving from Nairobi to Kiambu or from Nairobi to Machakos, or somebody is moving from another county coming into your counties, what then we have seen, and here is a cross-border issue within counties themselves. And he gave us a very good example of how much he gets to pay to move his trucks from one county to enter another county. There is a payment to just get into the county. There is another payment. So you have the national government where you get certain permits and licenses to go do that business. Then you move into a county. The county then requires you to have other permits, county permits. And interestingly, he said, and Setondu will correct me if my memory doesn't serve me right, there are points where the rates will then be discussed by, so a governor can decide or the county assembly can decide, sasa, for this one, tutalipisha a certain amount. Then, after another 1 month, you go back, things have changed again. So you've got all these fees that have been piled up, and it's making the cost of doing business for a lot of people very difficult.
If not impossible,
or if not impossible. And yet we're saying then devolution has actually then eased the way of doing business for a lot of the local people. Would you agree we have problems in terms of certain structures? Yes, the spirit, and I agree with you, Dr. Nyoro, is good on paper. But then when it comes to practically then doing business or allowing people to thrive and do business, it's become even costlier than when we just had the national government. Because back then, you could move from Nairobi to Trans Nzoia. Nobody is stopping you to charge you anything, as long as you've paid that permit fee once. But this time, if you're moving from here to Tana River, how many counties are you crossing? So you're paying levies and fees for all these places as you're going to do business. Has it improved the quality of how people do business, or has it made it complicated?
Two issues. What you have said is completely right. And for me, that is the reason why we should have the devolution conference. And that is the reason why we should have a strong council of governors to address those issues. It is true that levies and charges from one county to another differ, and business is hampered across. All of this, as I said, the first thing is in the spirit of wanting to raise own source revenue. Because counties are again ranked by their ability to raise own source revenue. Raising of own source revenue is a double-edged sword. The more you raise it, the more you are taxing your people, the more you are taxing your business, and the more you are taxing the services that you are providing. So because counties want to raise more resources, they see if a truck is coming from Nakuru with stones to Kiambu, they see an opportunity of charging that truck without realizing that the ultimate consumer of the stones is going to pay for that. Now, that is an aspect that for a lot of time has been discussed at the Council of Governors. Nothing has happened. It is an aspect that when you remember when we were trying to improving cost of doing business and we were being lanked, that was an aspect that was being picked by the national government that they should be harmonized. So it is true that when you are doing those kind of things, you are increasing cost of doing business and you are hampering the development. And it's like you are saying, we, the people of Machakos, we will charge the people of Kiambu. And the people of Kiambu are saying, if they are charging us, we will charge the people of Nakuru. So if you are coming from Nakuru through to Machakos, then you'll be paying through all of this. It is something that needs to be harmonized, and it is one of the aspects that I said that there is very poor coordination between the county governments and the national government. Completely broken down to the extent that agriculture, which is devolved, if you look at countries that have devolved their systems or federated their system like the US, they look at their comparative advantage in each of these states. So Kansas may be for dairy, Florida may be for citrus, California may be for apples, and they have a national or a federal kind of plan that says this is going to be our target production for apples. The place to produce apples is California. So we are going to work with the Californian government, federal government, state government to produce apples. In this country, you don't have that. So you have everybody saying don't produce maize or everybody producing maize. So that poor coordination between the national government and the county governments makes the issues such as the levies and the charges and all of that flourish across, then making doing business very difficult.
So I had 2 points. One is to answer your question directly. It is going not only to make it complicated but very difficult to do business. So I think the Council of Governors under the national government, specifically Minister of Trade and the Treasury, they should sit down and normalize this because, as has been said, the end consumer, you might charge anybody who is coming from out of your county, but the goods which are being brought will be consumed at the local level, and your people will also pay for it. So I think it is good that we normalize this and ensure we ease the way we do business in this country and in counties. Lastly is I think we should have a continuous research, full-fledged research at national level where the counties will participate and equally the national government on how to continuously seek solutions to some of these challenges.
You mean to tell me in all these devolution conferences, Council of Governors, they sit with the president, they do this all the other time, like Dr. Nyoro said. These conversations never happen?
Everybody knows. Everybody knows. We have had presidents before who implemented devolution. Those challenges were there. There were governors, likes of Dr. Nyoro here. And we still have those challenges. That's why it is very important, even without devolution conference aside, we have a secretariat for county governments, known as, I think for me it should be Council of Counties, not governors. And maybe Council of Governors becomes an arm under Council of Counties. It should have a specific task, and this is one of them. It is a serious matter, Dennis.
Definitely,
which we need to address because it is something that is affecting majority of our people.
Right.
If Kenya becomes unattractive for doing business because of high taxation regime, Men have choices. They can move to neighboring
can go to
countries,
other countries.
and we are the losers. It is something that should have been discussed more than 10 years ago and harmonized.
And it is the hope that even as you go into Homa Bay coming in from tomorrow, that these are issues that will not just be discussed, but that you come back from Homa Bay and actually implement some of these things. It's why we have these conversations.
Unfortunately, as a country, we are very good in discussing.
But implementation is a totally different story. And perhaps that's why we drum up the support for these conversations to ensure that, implementation actually does take place. It's a short hour, but we want to thank both of you for being here with us this morning. Bringing out ideas, at the very least, is what we must do. The former governor of Kiambu County is Dr. James Nyoro, as well as Deputy Governor for Machakos County, Francis Mwangangi. Thank you so much for being here with us.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.